Welcome to Water Over the Bridge, a conversation about floods in cities. Allow me to introduce the panel. Viju B is the metro editor of the Times of India in Kochi. He reports chiefly on issues at the intersection of development, ecology, and culture. While working in Mumbai for various national newspapers, he covered the catastrophic 26/7 Mumbai floods, the 26/11 terror attacks, and the Gujarat riots. He exposed the Sindhudurg mining scam in the Western Ghats and was part of the core investigation team that exposed the Adarsh building scam in Mumbai that eventually led to the resignation of Maharashtra Chief Minister Ashok Chavan. In 2018, he extensively covered the Kerala floods, traveling to the worst hit areas in the state and along the Western Ghats. His observations and experiences from his travel culminated in the book Flood and Fury. We have also with us Krupa Ge, who's a writer and editor from Madras. Her reportage and cultural writings have appeared in publications such as The Hindu, The Caravan, The Wire, First Post, Lady's Finger, The New Indian Express, etc. over the last 11 years. Rivers Remember, her book on the Chennai floods, was published by Context, an imprint of Westland, in July 2019. She has a novel forthcoming in 2020. Divya Ravindranath is the moderator. She's a post-doctoral fellow at IIHS. Her research is at the intersection of migration, informal labor, and health. Her current work focuses on maternal and child health among households engaged in construction work. Divya completed her master's from Tata Institute for Social Sciences, Mumbai, and has worked with non-profits in urban and rural India. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that on the third floor we have an exhibition based on disaster recovery that is in tune with this discussion. Recovery with Dignity is an exhibition of IIHS fieldwork in Odisha, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, curated by Yashodhara Udupa and Zurab Rez Gamat. Over to you.
Good morning, everybody. We are going to be discussing two very interesting and important books. I had clear instructions from Anjana on using the mic, sorry. We're going to be discussing two really interesting and very important books today. We have Krupa's Rivers Remember and Viju's Flood and Fury, both books with evocative titles and tell us something really important and serious about our city. I'm going to start with a few questions for both of them, and then we'll leave it out for the audience, because I know this is a topic that emotionally affects everybody, and I'm sure there are going to be a lot of questions. Viju, let me start with you. When I first heard about your book and I picked it up, I thought it was about the Kerala floods. But when I started reading it, chapter after chapter, I realized it was about a much larger picture. It was about an entire ecosystem. You walk through the entire Western Ghats and all the states and regions that are sort of connected to the Western Ghats, and that's the way in which you talk about the Kerala floods. So tell us more about this. Why did you at what point did you realize that you couldn't tell the story of Kerala without talking about the entire ecosystem?
Thank you IIHS for inviting me to the session. Can you hear me? Yeah. And Krupa, of course, we have been sharing this platform for the third time. We have sort of become the chroniclers of bad times, I would say. So I think yeah. So yeah. In coming back to your question, in fact, the floods in Kerala and Karnataka happened in 2018. The book is, as you said, is not only about floods that happened in Kerala. It has many layers, I would say. The first layer, of course, is ecology. Then I speak about communities living over there, micro communities living over, the micro cultures living in this area, and of course the disturbances which is happening, which is both natural and man-made, and how it impacts the communities living in this region. In fact, in 2018, immediately after the floods, we had this longest debate in Kerala. It was there on TV, and as well there was this two very interesting reports which came out. One was by the Central Water Commission report, which said that the floods occurred because of massive rains. As you all know, we had 3,000 mm of rainfall in Kerala between July and August. So obvious, it's an obvious statement. When there are rains, you'll have floods. That was one interesting report, one very fascinating report. And after 8 months, we had another report. This was by the amicus curiae by the Kerala High Court, which said that no, it's not the rains, it's because of the delay in opening of the shutters of the dam. In Kerala, we have 58 dams, 4 are operated by Tamil Nadu. So we had these two very conflicting reports, and people were all very confused. I mean, what is the reason for the floods to occur? So that was the beginning of my investigation. In fact, as you said, I traveled from Kerala till Maharashtra. In Kerala, I traveled through 6 eco-sensitive regions, starting from Idiki to Wayanad. Then I went to Karnataka in Coorg. Coorg, as you know, was badly devastated. And from Coorg, I went to Goa. Goa, again, it's a mining belt. And from there, I went to Maharashtra. The idea, of course, was to explore this complex ecosystem called the Western Ghats region. We don't talk about Western Ghats region. In fact, I would like to give you a small description of the Western Ghats region. I think it's very important. Can I have a slide? This is a very, in fact, Western Ghats has a very nice name called Sahyadri. Sahyadri in Sanskrit means benevolent mountains. I mean, this is a description given by none other than Kalidasa, poet Kalidasa. He says he's actually said that the head of the Western Ghats region is Kerala, and as you come down the torso and the body is your Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, and the fertile feet is Maharashtra and Goa. And the blue lines that passes through the Western Ghats region are the rivers, her arteries basically. And the green skin that you see on the on her is the forest region. So this is how the Western Ghats. In fact, I need to talk a bit about Western Ghats because we don't talk about Western Ghats much. I mean, this is a platform where I need to talk about Western Ghats. It's very close to my heart. In fact, the Western Ghats region provides water to 25 million people in the country. Every city in the southern Western Ghats side of the country, be it Mumbai, be it Bangalore, be it Chennai, be it Panjim, be it Calicut. Imagine, I mean, every city on the southern western side of the country gets water from. In fact, if you don't have Western Ghats, we won't have water. We'll die of starvation. We won't have water. I mean, that is the ecological significance of the Western Ghats. If you look at the flora and fauna of Western Ghats, we have 4,000 species of plants in Western Ghats region. Imagine 4,000. It is as diverse as the Amazon forest. If you look at the rivers, that is the 58 rivers which flows down from the Western Ghats region, you have rivers like Kaveri, Godavari, Krishna. All these rivers, if you look at all the civilization actually blossomed over the last 1,000 years in the Western Ghats region. In fact, the Western Ghats region, if you look at Western Ghats region, it's an ecosystem older than Himalayas. It's 150 million years old ecosystem. So this is what Western Ghats is all about. Now, what is the state of Western Ghats today? The Indian Institute of Science study, which was published 2 years back, which I mentioned in the book, which says that 35% of the Western Ghats region is completely destroyed. 35% would be around 35,000 square kilometers of Western Ghats has been completely destroyed in the last 90 years. Imagine, there is no Western, because of human interference in the natural landscape. I mean, it's actually shocking. So my fundamental premise of the book is the landslides and the floods that occurred in the Western Ghats region is because of the massive ecological devastation which happened in the Western Ghats region. I'll just give you a small, this is just about the Western Ghats region. So this is the state of Western Ghats today, because you have your rivers. You had multiple hemorrhages which happened in the Western Ghats region. Be it in Kerala, for example, in Kerala we have 44 rivers. All the rivers were completely reclaimed. All the rivers were completely clogged. I mean, this is basically the arteries. I mean, the rivers are arteries of the Western Ghats region. And you had multiple hemorrhages, which are this point nobody bothers to talk about. And the landslides, of course, landslides occurred in Kerala. We had around 100 landslides in Kerala. All the landslides happened because of massive human interference, like unscientific construction of roads, quarrying, etc., etc. So this is just a backdrop. This is just a just to tell you what happened. I mean, you have so much of quarry. So this is the beginning of my investigation of the Western Ghat region. I'll give you some, since we don't have time, I'll talk about a bit about Idiki, because we need to talk about, I'll talk about specific river called Cherutoni. Cherutoni River. In fact, the whole floods in Kerala started in Cherutoni River. I mean, because Cherutoni is this place in Idiki. It's a small town where the Cherutoni River was completely dammed when you had the Idiki. The Idiki Dam was actually constructed on the Cherutoni River. So there is no Cherutoni River today. It's completely non-existent. You don't have Cherutoni River. When you open the shutters of the dam, when you open the shutters of Cherutoni Dam, what happened? On the belly of the river, you had these buildings, you had these shops. Everything got wiped off. I mean, I'll just show you this. Oh, sorry, it's just gone. That's fine. Yeah, this second one. Yeah, I need to show this slide, which is very important. Yeah, this is. So right now we don't have Cherutoni River, because once the shutters of the dams, they have closed the shutters of the dam. There is no river there. The river has become non-existent again. You just have barren rocks. It's like a volcano. Imagine you just have desert over there. Now what has happened there is, now people have come back there. People have come back there, and people have started living on the banks of the river. I'll just give you an example. This is a person. His name is Pavitran. He's a settler. He's a settler in Idiki. I met him in August 2018. His shop was 20 meters away from Cherutoni River. The shop got wiped off. In 2019, in February, I met him again. He actually constructed the shop again at the same place. So this is what is happening. I mean this phenomena is replicated in all the 44 rivers of Kerala. All your 40, be the Bharatapuzha River, be the Periyar River, be the Pamba River, all your rivers were reclaimed. That's the reason for the floods to happen in the rivers. Now about the landslides, I need to show you a small slide. Yeah, this is the map of Kerala. All those red gashes that you see are the landslide prone areas of Kerala. In fact, 30% of area in Kerala is landslide prone. You can't have construction. We can't have construction. Unfortunately, we haven't done a landslide study till date. I mean, isn't that shocking? And so this is one of the landslide prone areas. This is a story of Shalini. There was actually 10 people died here due to landslide in Cherutoni. Her house is just above this hill, and the whole hill came down. In fact, people in Idiki, people in Wayanad, people actually want to move out of these areas. They want to get rehabilitated, which is not done. So two things I need to say: the ecological devastation which happened in the Western Ghat region, the natural disasters which happened in the Western Ghat region is because of the ecological devastation which happened in the Western Ghat region. Yeah.
Thank you. Krupa, your book is also about floods, but vastly different in the style, in your approach. I was really struck by the fact that you also do very high levels of research in the book, but at the same time juxtapose it with a very personal story. So why was it important for you to as much talk about the personal story? And I was really struck by the story of your parents' house being affected. Tell us a little more about it. Like, why did you choose to sort of use that style to write this book?
Failed the mic test. So actually it's the other way around. The book was born because my parents were affected by the flood. So my childhood home was devastated in the floods, and with that my parents continued to live. And so the aftermath, I was left with, just as Viju was saying right now, I was left with too many questions and no answers at all. And every day in the newspapers there'd be these contradicting statements that officers would give, and they would all be officers in the blind, right? They'd all just be sources. So because our chief minister back then was Ms. Jayalalitha, and she ran a tight ship, and nobody would dare to speak directly to the... So the answers were simply not forthcoming on why the flood had happened and who had caused it. Was it just the rain? Because initially they said it was a once in 100-year rain. But if you look at the definition of what a once in a 100-year rain is, it's that it can actually happen every year. It's not that it can happen only once in 100 years. The chances of it happening are that. So I started sort of having all these questions. At first, it was just simply anger at the complete failure of this state, especially because this time it had come into my own home, and this is really a question of me being very selfish. That's why I read the book. I needed answers, and I thought, well, the best way to go about, I know to do this is as a journalist, to go about asking the right questions to the right people, and I've been trained to do this for 10 years. Let me put it to good use. So basically, what I found over over the course of the 4 years that I spent researching for the book was that for a lot of people, the flood is personal, right? It's not just something that's happening in the news, but for the people who are affected by it, the flood is personal. You've gone back in your life by 10 years, 15 years, especially the marginalized. The ways in which they are affected by the floods are completely different from the ways in which the middle class or the upper middle class is affected. They are basically, they have to look for a new place, they have to start rebuilding, basically these slum homes that are built, they build it using casuarina poles, right? Those casuarina poles cost an extremely high amount of money. So we think people are just squatting along the banks of rivers, but they spend money to do that as well. And that's an exorbitant amount for them, right? Each house to build costs 25,000 to 30,000 rupees. But that is one half of the story. The other half of the story is, of course, the bureaucratic nightmare, which is basically what caused the flood. So I was staring at, two completely different ends of, this flood story, and so I had to bring the personal as well as the political in together somehow. And that's why I decided to sort of start with my own story. If I had to go into somebody else's home and ask them personal questions about the floods, I, bloody well be willing to put my own story in there, right, as well. And I should tell people, how my own parents suffered, and all, because you go into people's homes and you ask them very probing questions. When you, one of the doctors I spoke to, she's known to me, and she spoke about, for the book, and it's in there, about buying a land that's actually on a wetland, it's on a lake, and they start construction work, and then they see in the next plot lotuses have started blooming as soon as the first rains come. And that's when she realizes she's been sold a plot inside a lake. And for her to actually admit that, to put her name, she runs a serious business. She's a gynecologist. People have to come there, and for her to say that, it requires a lot of courage for people to come and speak out against the state. And so to be able to set an example also, it was important for me to sort of, tell my story. And I think I'll do the, so it's also about, why I decided to write the book. That's how I begin the book. So I thought I can do a small reading so that people, this is the prologue. It's called, How on Earth Did This Happen to Us? My parents were asleep when it started. In a matter of minutes, nearly 6 feet of water filled up their home. If a neighbor hadn't alerted them, they would have gone under, along with their house. They lost everything that night to the city's rivers. In December 2015, floods ravaged the coastal South Indian town I call home, Chennai. There was chaos, death, and heartbreak. Most importantly, floods were no longer something that happened to someone else in the news. Questions gnawed away at me in the aftermath of the disastrous night, even as I felt helpless and sorry for myself. Why hadn't the government warned my parents? Were there others like them? Why was nobody held responsible for this obvious failure? Around the time of the floods, I read Haruki Murakami's Underground. It is a complex and compelling non-fictional account of the sarin gas attack in the Tokyo subway. Murakami was inspired to write this book after reading a letter in a magazine in which the wife of a victim asks, "How on earth did this happen to us?" I could relate to this question a lot. By August 2015, I had a vision for this book. I wanted to capture the events that unfolded that night by interviewing victims from across the city, cutting across social barriers. There were also other questions that needed answers. Why did Chennai flood? Was it really because of a once-in-a-100-year rain, as the authorities claimed? Why didn't they prepare for this eventuality despite warnings of heavy rains? Why weren't people evacuated? Why was there no warning? Why wasn't the state government forthcoming about how many people had died? Why did the national media in India ignore this news until it was too late? These questions were important to me at a personal level too because of what had happened to my parents. But floods aren't just personal. They don't happen to one family.
Thank you. I also wanted to sort of talk to both of you about the fact that, on one hand, you talk about the failure or the collapse of state structures, but at the same time, you also talk about people's resilience. You also talk about the various ways in which people, came out to help each other, the whole sense of community. But there is also a very strong class and caste dimension to this whole conversation, and we, often don't talk about it in the media. So tell us a little more about that aspect of the flood and the post-flood situation. What does it mean to different people in the city or in the region? How do different people experience it differently?
Yeah, in fact, the coastal community came forward in a big way in Kerala to sort of rescue the people stranded. But all those things, all those things that you read in the newspaper, like it's a very secular thing. I mean, Christian, Muslim families stayed in the relief camp. All those things are good to read in newspapers. I mean, look. After that, after a couple of months, we are back at destroying the environment, isn't it? So these are all good stories for the mainstream media to talk about these relief camps where people sat together and ate a meal and all this. It's there. That's all. Look at the situation in Kerala right now. Post floods. I'm just talking about post floods. We have in Kerala we have six quarries in every panchayat. I'm talking about post flood data. It's mentioned in my book. We have 6,000 quarries in every panchayat. The mining data I've got through RTI, which says that 3 crore ton of granite has been quarried in all these regions of Western Ghat region. So what are we talking about? That's the whole concept. I would say the first thing that we need to address is this Western Ghat system. We need to address that there is a thing called Western Ghats which gives us water. In fact, if you read the economic review of Kerala, I mean Kerala being what you've been saying, people's model, health model, all those things. None of the economic review reports from the last 50 years, I just went through that before writing the book. None of the report speaks about Western Ghats. I mean, how can you not talk about Western Ghat region? 50% of Kerala is Western Ghats. There is not a single mention of Western Ghat region. I mean, the basic problem we can talk about flood management system. We can talk about flood forecasting system. All those reservoir. These are all very technologically, savvy words. We can talk about having a reservoir management area, dam management, all those things. But these are all very piecemeal kind of exercises. The ultimate solution, the long-term solution, is to conserve the Western Ghat region, conserve the ecosystem of the Western Ghat region. Now, how do you do it? I mean, the first thing I would like to that was a revelation for me as I wrote the book. In fact, every chapter of the book begins with a tribal song, a folk song, because the only ecosystem people today living in the Western Ghat region are the tribals. All of us pollute. We pollute our environment. We switch on our AC. But the tribal community living in the Western Ghat region, they don't pollute the environment a bit. In fact, there are so many stories in my very inspiring stories in my I've written in my book, especially in places like Idiki, places like Wayanad, where tribal communities are actually doing organic cultivation. There is this very interesting story I mentioned. There is this right in the middle of the Periyar Tiger Reserve in Idiki. There is this tribal called Urali tribals. 22 families are actually doing organic cultivation. They are actually exporting organic pepper to European countries. And every family actually makes around 4 lakh per annum. And the very interesting part about the whole exercise is that they've been doing it for the last 20 years. This is in a valley, and you have hills all around this village, this hamlet, this tribal hamlet. There has not been a single landslide over there. So this is a very sustainable mode of thing. I mean, we need to propose. This is just one example. We need to promote this kind of organic cultivation. We need to have this kind of sustainable livelihood, which is not being done. I mean, look at Kaveri River, for example. I mean, we talk about Kaveri. I mean, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu has been fighting on Kaveri River for long. Have you ever thought of do a Kaveri river conservation campaign? I'll give you a simple example of Kaveri River. It's almost 800 kilometers long. The Kaveri River starts, as you all know, from Kodagu, from Talakaveri River. Now, one of the major tributary of Kaveri River is the Kabani River, which starts from Wayanad. Now, if you don't have water in Kabani River, Kaveri River will dry up. I mean, you can't have piecemeal deal of, you can't have a small cleaning up campaign in the city of Bangalore or in the city of Chennai. You need to have a program of a river conservation program right from upstream. Now, this Kabani River, the reason for the Kabani River to get dried up, because there are two other sub-tributaries of Kabani River, which is the Panamaram River and the Mananthavadi River. This Panamaram River has been completely reclaimed. 85% of Panamaram, I mentioned in my book, 85% of Panamaram River has been completely reclaimed. That is the reason for one of the reasons for the floods to occur in Wayanad. So when we talk about conservation, we need to talk about the entire ecosystem, right from upstream, which is not happening.
Krupa, do you want to add to that about people's resilience, and also you've talked about social media, the various kinds of communities that came together in Chennai.
Right. Yeah. So even in Chennai, the first responders were the fishermen, and it was the fishing community that came out in large numbers, and despite heavy damage to their boats, because the boats are not built for Chennai roads. So they're built for the sea. So they just the boat would hit a divider and it'll have a hole, or these are people who are risking their livelihood at the cost of saving people. And then you had volunteers, young students. So people would be rescued, and then they wouldn't just be waiting around feeling sorry for themselves. They would go out and they'd be rescuing more people. And large kitchens were open and food was being distributed by everybody, because the state apparatus completely collapsed. So the people had to rise to the occasion. Otherwise there would be chaos on the streets. But even then, what was really heartbreaking was, all of this was good because we were making memes out of them and we were saying, oh, we are so great, we were patting ourselves on the back. But what was really obvious when I started studying for the book later on was that whatever happens, caste is not dying. Caste is very alive, and it is in fact exacerbated at times of devastation. We've had reports of caste Hindus trying to stop aid from going into Dalit bastis or colonies, and they've actually plundered in some of the places that are far away from Chennai, or in some of the lower income areas. There have been reports where people who were taking the aid were attacked, and this is also this is also the problem when citizens are doing the relief work, right? Because we don't understand the social or the economic context of where we are going to give aid. We live in a city and we think that caste is dead, and we think, okay, so I'm just going to go and volunteer and everything will be fine. People will feel grateful for me that I'm actually going in to do the aid work. But what people don't understand is this is why you need an NGO, this is why you need the state to sort of come in and do the work. One really admirable rescue effort that I found during my research was from the Elam Tamils, the Tamil refugees who actually came out and volunteered during the floods. And this is actually the only refugee scenario in the world where the refugees have come out to help the host community. And this is the second time they're doing it. They did this during the tsunami also. And they go into these lower income homes and they understand people who have suffered, because they can talk to them, they can counsel them and say, look, I've had it worse than you, I'm standing here and I'm talking to you as your counselor. So this was really heartwarming for me. This work is done by an NGO based out of Chennai. Even the Tamil Nadu government is not allowed to work with the refugees, but these are UN supported NGOs, and it's run by refugees themselves. So yes, there were heartwarming stories and there was really great work being done by people, but it also shows that people were left to fend for themselves, and then there was obviously a caste divide. So this was at various levels, right? When the national media didn't cover our floods, and we were all feeling very angry that the Delhi media is ignoring the south, right? And then the media in Chennai was only focusing on Chennai, but the floods didn't happen just in Chennai. It also happened in outskirts in 3 other districts. So, like, people there were pissed off that only Chennai was getting all of the aid, and Cuddalore was very badly hit. And Cuddalore is also one of those places where there's very high, caste tensions, and in some of those villages there were people who hadn't received aid for long, and they're still being rehabilitated until now. It's been 4 years since the floods. People are still being rehabilitated. And so it's like it's a very confusing mix, and the fact that the state has actually just let these people be and said, you do whatever you want. I'm just throwing my hands up in the air. They gave him 5,000 rupees aid. What will people do with 5,000 rupees? And this was across, so there's no social audit also. There's no sense. If you lived in a bungalow, you got 5,000 rupees. If you lived in a bus, you got 5,000 rupees. How does that make sense? The person who's lost his tools of trade, for instance, potters, weavers, fishermen who lost their vallam boats, and all of these people, what are they going to do with 5,000 rupees? Even at every level, I found that there was an apathy, and there was a clear sort of like, people didn't want to sort of accept that yes, a caste divide exists. So I'll give you a very fundamental example about my own home, right? This is very embarrassing for me to say, but until the floods happened, I didn't know my home was by the river, right? My parents have been living there for let's say 25 years now. I know that there is a river nearby, but I had no clue how close to the river we were living. And it was only after the flood that I actually took my first walk by the river. Why did this happen? It's a function of caste. Who lives by the river in cities? And it's also a function of what we have done to our rivers, as a result of which we have pushed the marginalized on their banks. You clean up the river, tomorrow a posh apartment will come up, right? We'll have a Lakeview apartment and a Riverview apartment immediately. But as long as it's dirty, we push the poor and the marginalized who come to, work in people's homes, who come to clean the city streets, to the corners of the river. So it is a function. This caste exists not just in the outskirts of cities, and it exists in the heart of the city, and it was absolutely visible during the floods. And the other thing was, who was cleaning the city after the floods? That's one of my big stories. Almost 100% of the people who are employed in the service of cleaning our cities come, especially in Chennai, they come from this community called the Arundhati community. They are, an Adivasi community, not an Adivasi community, but a Dalit community, but they're called Parangudinar in Tamil. Basically, they're like the oldest inhabitants of the place. What have we let them do, right? And they were employed in cleaning Chennai city. So these are people who live in these faraway places, in these poor households whose homes were submerged. They had to abandon their homes and they had to come and clean this city. Not only this, but the state, in all its wisdom, decided to fill lorries full of people. Is that a way to transport human beings? These workers were transported in lorries from Ooty and Gudalur and faraway places, and brought them to Chennai and put them up in these wedding halls by the hundreds, with no sanitation, with no access to water. People were telling me that they had to drink water out of a plate because the state didn't give them a tumbler. And they brought these 2 people died in the aftermath of the floods, cleaning up the Chennai city. Right, that much waste was lying around because the flood had left all kinds of things in its wake, and people's homes were flooded, and you couldn't leave anything inside your house, right? Once it's flooded, so if you walked down a main street in Madras, all you saw on the day after the flood was people's mattresses, because people were throwing mattresses away. Who's going to clean all this up? And sanitation workers have told me that they have pulled out spools of 30 bodies from some places, of people, of animals, of inhuman conditions. And the people who suffer the most in floods are the poor and the marginalized and the Dalit. The people who actually do the most work in the aftermath are them. So they have the rawest deal when it comes to. So one of the suggestions that has come from the community is that there has to be some sort of a relief for floods has to have a caste component, has to have a marginalized component in it, and they should be the ones. We should make sure that the aid goes there, because aid is being stopped from going there.
I just want to add a small
Sure,
thing to
sure.
what it's such a nice point that Krupa was making. We had an Oki cyclone in 2017. It was in Kerala. It was all it impacted only coastal community in Kerala. Nobody bothered actually. I mean, because it's a community, it's a coastal community. Nobody bothered. Now the fact that we are talking about floods and landslide, it's because it started to affect the cities. So how disconnected we are with the ecosystems around us. I mean, it's a very important point that she made. In fact, I'll just add a small thing. As part of writing this book, I went to Goa. My prediction is that, in fact, I had predicted the disaster which would happen in Wayanad, and it actually happened last year. My prediction is that Goa is going to face the next big ecological disaster in the coming years, because the Goa that we know is all party circuit. We know Goa as a sun-drenched, beaches and all those things. 25 kilometers up, just go 25 kilometers up, completely, Goa has been completely destroyed. There is a place called Bicholim Taluk. 22 villages have been completely denuded due to mining. The Shah Commission reports has said that 35,000 crore worth of illegal mining has occurred in Goa. Village after village, there is no water. Because I went to, in fact, I've started the Goa chapter I'd gone to a village called Shirgaon. It's in North Goa. There is this person called Dinanath Gaukar. Gaukar has, the village subsisted on paddy farming. They had around 1,000 acres of paddy land. They used to actually have, they used to reap 85 quintals of paddy every year. Now the thing is that now they don't have paddy over there, because what has happened is you have 3 mines around this village. The big mining companies, Sesa Vedanta, Chowgulis, all the big mining companies, international. What they have done is, once you start the mining during the monsoon, the slush comes down. The slush came down and it got filled in the paddy field, and that is one reason. Another reason is that as you dig and you have huge mining pits, what happens? Your groundwater goes to that side. I mean, it's basically slope. All your groundwater, because they depend on well water. They don't have pipe water. So they don't have water now. They don't have paddy field now. And if people talk about mining, sustainable mining, I think people should go to Goa and see. 22 villages, nothing. I mean, in every village I went, 2% of the people have become rich. They are basically the tipper lorry owners. What they do is they take the mountain. They have been excavating the mountain. In fact, if you look at, I was thinking, what is this development what we are talking about? You're taking mud after mud, mountain after mountain from, and all this mountain has all this bauxite ore. Where did it go? It went to China. 90%. It's not for India. 90% has gone to China. So what is the development model we are talking about? Unfortunately, now because of Supreme Court ruling, the mining has been stalled now. But now they're planning an open auction. It will again start. So So this is the disconnected lives we are. Now people staying in the coast near Goa, they don't know what's happening. So now one fine day there will be landslide over there, and then they'll realize. Yeah.
Actually, when I was reading both your books, so I lived in Bombay when the Bombay floods happened, Mumbai floods happened, and Viju, you've covered that extensively as well, you were saying. But the more, one reads both your books, you realize this could be literally any part of the country.
In fact, the Bombay floods happened because of the diversion of Methi River for the airport.
Absolutely.
And
then, we have similar
again,
stories.
it's a river diversion.
We have similar stories in Bangalore about the lake bed, being encroached here and there, and the same thing that you're talking about, lake view apartments that come up. But when we talk, then there is a parallel conversation on climate change. That's now like a global, it's a rage. Everybody's talking about climate change, but we don't see the same thing being reflected in disaster mitigation or in talk of risk and resilience. So I also wanted to ask you, now that you've written these interesting and very important books, what has been the response of people around you, the state, others who've maybe lived through it, people in other cities? I'm really curious to know that, because not too many people write books about disasters. We have a lot of journalistic reporting, and that's where it ends. We forget about the flood or any other disaster. But here you've sort of preserved that for people to read and sort of reflect upon. And as I was reading your book, I was just thinking, that was my day in Bombay, and I knew so many friends whose houses had got destroyed, documents lost, which today also has a lot of political meaning. The fact that my parents were stuck on a flyover for more than 24 hours. Everybody has this story, and increasingly across the country, everybody will have a story. So tell me, what do you think is
So far as the state is concerned, there has been stone dead silence. Like it is as if they have ignored the book, which is good for me. At first I thought there'd be criminal defamation or something like that, because I've named the chief secretary and how she tried to hide the fact that it was a man-made flood, and because I used RTI and I brought a lot of private communication between the chief secretary and the CAG out. But she retired by then, so I guess maybe that's why I didn't have to face anything, but they just completely ignored it. But the rest of the people, I think everybody understands that floods are here and floods are here to stay, and increasingly people are worried. I've given so many talks so far, and everywhere it's not people who are, who are studying development, who are studying floods. It's everyday people. It's people who are thinking, what if my home floods? And I've had people in the Q&A ask me, so what do I do? Where do I find a house? What's safe to do? What happens when there's a flood next time? So these are questions that are on everybody's mind now, because we see it happening. And increasingly, it's not only happening to to just the middle class or even the poor or the middle class alone. It's happening to everybody, because all of us are building on top of lakes and rivers. So the response of people who are in the field, people who are prone to be affected, who are normal people who want to just sort of understand floods, all of that has been phenomenal. And it's actually people who've been in the floods, who have been stuck in floods in various parts of the country, have written to me, and they said that they were able to relate, just like you said. In fact, the title for the book comes from a piece that was written in the aftermath of the Bombay floods, called Rivers That Remember in Cities That Forget. It was by Vikram Doctor. It was a very good piece. And that piece sort of did the rounds again when the Chennai floods happened. So people were already making that connection, right? When one flood happens, there's a memory of another flood. So even when this flood happened in Chennai, people remembered, oh yeah, 10 years ago there was a flood. But 10 years is a long time. And we all block these things in our mind and we move on. We just like the next thing. Even my mother has been in floods at least 5 times in her life. She's seen floods at least 5 times in her life, but she's kind of blocked it all out. And I feel like that's what everybody is doing. Even the state is doing that. Okay, just people will forget about it and move on. Public memory is short. We'll just move on to the next when the disaster strikes. That's why I had to write the book, because I didn't want the record of this flood to go unnoticed, because it was very, the flood that happened in Chennai was very bad. I mean, it was 2/3 of the city underwater, and it could happen to anybody. And some of the ways in which people died, they didn't deserve to die, and they did because of state apathy, and I wanted to record that. And this was, by all accounts, a man-made flood. In every way you looked at it, from the opening of the dam to the way buildings have been constructed on rivers and lakes, to not alerting people in time, not rescue operations not reaching. Who switches off electricity before informing people that your house is going to flood? This is what the state did. The army people who came for rescue operations are saying that they had no clue where to go. They were just waiting there, and there was a volunteer who was sitting with a roster who went on Twitter to see who's asking for help. And he called the army and told him, you go to this flat, there will be some 20 people. This is how rescue operations happened in Chennai. There was no war room, no police. The commissioner could not reach his policemen to go to his respective areas and say that, you guys vacate, your home may be flooded. The commissioner said, some of the senior police officers were seriously considering taking VRS and going after the floods because they thought they might be blamed for it. And EB had no clue.
Viju, you want to also, if you could read the excerpt?
Yeah, I'll do that. In fact, the only positive thing after writing the book has become a bestseller in Amazon. Probably that is one thing. Government has done. In fact, I need to show you a small, just one slide. I won't bore you. This is what, sorry. I think it's just before this. Just to show you. This is very interesting slide. This is the famous Pamba temple near Sabrimala. Sabrimala, we talk about Sabrimala, women's issue, Sabrimala, and all those things. I mean, Kerala is every day we debate on whether women should enter. I mean, this guy. His name is Radha. I call him the Mundu scavenger. What he does is he collects mundu. This is a very weird ritual. People who go to Sabrimala, they throw their mundu, they throw their underclothes, they throw their mala, everything into the water. It's a ritual. It's a weird ritual. And look at the color of Sabrimala, the Pamba river near Sabrimala. It's in fact it's worse than sewage water. I mean, it's so black in color. I mean, this is Sabrimala post flood. I mean, look at the color of the. I mean, Sabrimala temple today, the Travancore Devasam board earns around 200 crore annually every year. Can't they even give 1/4, 1/10, 1/50th of that to clean up the Pamba river? I mean, isn't it shocking? This is a government reaction post flood I am talking about. In fact, because of the flood, there was very nice thing which happened. The Pamba river, in fact, took away all the encroachments, the Ramamurthy Mandapam, all those things, and the Pamba river became very clean. So I was very happy actually. I mean, at least the Pamba river is now, at least at that area, Pamba has become very clean. But and in fact, people were not allowed to go to the Pamba river, and you had to trek 4 kilometers up to the Sannidhanam. So we had to actually take public transport 22 kilometers from a place called Nilakal towards Pamba. This was a public transport post floods in 2018 December, which I took, and I stayed there for a week to write the Pathanamthitta, the Sabrimala chapter. This year, what has happened is, so I thought, okay, this is a good thing. You have public transport. People are not allowed to go to the Pamba river. You travel. You go by bus. You go there and you just sort of trek up. This year, they've started the private vehicles. They started allowing. I mean, this. And the vehicles stop there. You have people peeing on the roads. You have people shitting on the roads. And then look at the color of the water. I mean, shocking. In fact, report after report, the National Tiger Conservation Authority report, the Supreme Court Empowered Authority report, all the reports are saying that Sabrimala has turned into a concrete jungle. It's a concrete jungle. Ayyappa has ran away from there. There is no Ayyappa there. Ayyappa is known as a forest deity. There is no, it's just a concrete jungle. If we won't talk about that, it's all communal. If you talk, they'll say that you are an atheist. I mean, how dare you talk about? This is the whole problem. We only talk about identity politics. We don't talk about the real issues. We don't talk about the environment. I mean, isn't that we need to talk about in the era of climate change? We need to talk about environment, right? Look at rivers, and all the rivers. We talk about rivers as political boundaries. Like Kaveri is part of Tamil Nadu, is part of Karnataka. We need to talk about ecological barriers. Like the river starts from the mountain and it ends at sea. So you need to conserve the entire region, isn't it? It's as simple as that. So that's not happening. It's very unfortunate. In fact, I'll read a small chapter. What's chapter 1? This is a very, since you spoke about communities. 1 second. But communities, in fact, tribal communities, in fact, they have realized that there is something seriously going wrong in the Western Ghat region. I met this tribal called Cheruvayal Raman. There is a picture of Cheruvayal Raman. He's brilliant. He has actually conserved just put his picture. Yeah, this is Chervail Raman for you. He has actually conserved 50 varieties of endemic paddy seeds there. He's brilliant actually, and he does it for no profit because he says paddy seeds are basically spiritual paddy seeds. I need to conserve that. So I spoke to Chervail Raman, it's there in my book. So he actually speaks about the rainfall pattern in Wayanad. I'll just read just a page. Wayanad in particular had many kinds of rains. Rains that came down as soft drizzles, fondly called as nool mala, literally thread rains, like thin silk threads falling on your face and shoulders. The misty, dewy rain that suddenly appeared from nowhere and disappeared behind the woods. The romance of the mist and rains was one of the main aspects that lured tourists to Wayanad. These rains, though, had great utilitarian value for the estates as they provided a temperate climate conducive to plantation crops. Raman says Wayanad, like most part of Kerala, had 6 different types of rain till very recently. Each came with a distinct sound, pace, color, and even smell. The rains have names starting from the names of Malayalam month. It began with Kumbhamala, rain, the summer rains in February that cleared the dirt in the atmosphere. Then came the Medamala or Vishumala in April. That was short and brisk, but this rain makes the parched land ready for farming. Tuber crops like yam and colocasia are planted. At the beginning of Edrapadi, that is between May and June, the southwest monsoon arrives. The paddy fields are said to be irrigated. The Midunamala or the August rain brings in copious rainfall, and as the plains get flooded, the groundwater level gets replenished. The Chingamala, September rains, is soft and fun-loving, and the rain actually plays hide and seek, drizzling even in the sunshine. The Tulamala, which is in October, is accompanied by heavy thunderstorm, which is the onset of northeast monsoon. And we had 6 different varieties of rain. And this is what Chervail Raman says. So this is in quotes of Chervail Raman. For hundreds of years, we have been cultivating crops as per the monsoon calendar. The regular rain patterns has been destroyed forever. In the last few years, except last year, which had heavy rainfall in August, there has been a deficit in rainfall in Wayanad. He says Raman's observation on the density of rainfall is not off the mark. Several studies conducted by various research agencies in the last decade showed that Wayanad is going to face the brunt of climate change, which can be mitigated only through the protection of the remaining forest cover. Further, a detailed study of rainfall data collected in 28 years, that is between 1983 and 2011, in Wayanad by researchers Danish Kumar and Pavan Srinath showed that the number of days in a year that received a moderate amount of rainfall was found to be decreasing, but the number of days receiving very low or very high rainfall was increasing. This is a classic pattern of climate change. In fact, this is the reason that we had a landslide. This is Puttumala landslide. I need to show that. This is Puttumala in Wayanad. This is the classic, this is the landslide which happened in Wayanad. We had 20 centimeters of rainfall in one day. Classic instance of climate change which is happening in the Western Ghat region. So what do we do to mitigate this? In fact, we need to talk about that later, I think. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I have to open for Q&A because we are behind time. Questions, comments? Yeah.
So my question is, when discussions like this happen, climate change is often mentioned, it's often talked about. Now, that is true, that exists, but it's like a blanket term. Should we talk about more localized solutions? Should we talk about one city versus other? Should we talk about specific measures?
So I met a climate scientist recently who actually was surprised that we don't talk about climate change enough in India, and it's the reverse. The problem is the reverse in that we are really focused on the local and the smaller issues, and we think that each of the city. But he says if you zoom out and look at the macro issues, the issues are related to climate change, and that it might actually make more sense to sort of brace ourselves for what is coming, which is more flooding, unfortunately. And even things like so one of the things is basically they're not completely unrelated. So if there is climate change coming, what could possibly happen? People who live in low-lying areas are going to increasingly see more floods. So don't build your home inside a lake, because climate change is coming. So they're all kind of, related. So that's what I think.
In fact, I think since I've been talking a lot about the Western Ghats region, that's a very interesting water policy released. It's a Karnataka water policy. It was done by Mihir Shah, this famous water expert. It's just released last year. It's a very interesting report, 270 pages of. I was just reading it last night. It speaks about regeneration of a river. I mean, we need to stop. 80% of water. Bangalore get 80% of water from Kaveri. 80%. I mean, if there is no Kaveri river, you won't have water, right? So you can't. That's what I was saying. You can't have piecemeal. You can't have a small cleaning up campaign here. You need to start upstream. I mean, there is mining happening upstream. You need to stop that. For that, you know what happened to the Madhav Gadgil report. I mean, it's a long story. Madhav Gadgil report was completely buried by all the states, Karnataka, Kerala. The reason was because of vested interest, because of quarry lobby. Because we in the city, the problem in the city, we are disconnected of what is happening over there. The water is not coming mainly because of this ecological devastation which is happening in the Western Ghat region. So we need, as she was saying, we need to have a macro plan. You can't have small plans. I mean, it's all good. You can have and go and clean the plastic in your neighbor. It's good, but you need to have. And the main problem, and if I say that it would be very ideological, I would say the main problem is because we are pursuing a neoliberal capital model. We need to stop that. We can't have a China model in here. We need to have sustainable development. Do we need water or do we need buildings here? I mean, we need clean air, right? We need a quality air. We need air and water. So we need to have our priorities right. So that's what, but unfortunately none of the governments are interested in that.
I have a question.
One of the absurdities of this 21st century is this mission Pani, which is being endorsed by people who have jacuzzis in their own homes, and they're telling you, "Tum nahano ek balti mein," Yeah, it's absolutely. And I just want to make another remark. When the Bombay floods happened, after 8 days I emerged into the city and I saw the city having been washed clean. So I came and I said in my office, I said, "Bapre, mujhe to laga main ek nayi city mein ghoom rahi hu." And there was a technician who sat, and it's a very unhappy remark that he has made, but it was in a way, he said, "Nishika, desh ki इंसान की गंदगी धुल गई." I know that you're going to be upset about the fact that people have died, that sort of thing. But he said, ये जो काला धंधा, ये जो काली गंदगी जो सब ज़मीन के नीचे लोगों ने दबा दी है, आप बुरा मत मानो मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ, आपको तो नया सिटी लगा, हमें भी नया सिटी लगा, और ये जो नीचे पानी ने इंसान को सबक सिखाया है. That is what people are not realizing, that ultimately, whether it's NDA or Rahul Gandhi or this or that is immaterial. If you're going to have a lake view, and this happened as an argument in the Times of India festival, with all these Bollywood fans sitting up there, and I said to them, these jokes, so why do you worry? Don't worry about, ignore the messenger if you don't like the messenger. I was meaning, the big B of Bollywood. So I said to them, but I'm so sorry, but even the message is incorrect. If the message said, don't fill up your ponds with, as you said, lakeside apartments, maybe that would be a more relevant message than saying, "Arey, nahane ke time do brush balti mein na ho." So I just wanted to.
Yeah, sure. You had a question.
Yes. Whatever the water bodies present in the city, rivers, canals, during we have Ganesh festival. Nowadays, many are making they are keeping some seeds inside the idol, and if each one keep some medical plant seed of each idol, and whenever they want to, after festival is ended, they have to plant that throughout the river basin or water bodies. It might be helpful to purify the water, because in olden days, whenever we take bath in Ganga, the reason why is because all the medical plants are located throughout the Ganga. That's why our every disease will vanish. Why don't they do this?
I also had, to add to her point, Viju, you showed us that picture of sewage water. I mean, the river beginning to look like sewage. And Krupa, it is sewage, okay. And Krupa, in your book, you have this, you write about sewage entering your parents' house. And it was really a very moving, piece in the book where you talk about, I think you should talk about it, maybe not.
Yeah. So these days I actually tell people to just go watch the movie Parasite. I don't know if many people have seen it, but there's a scene which I try to describe it in pages, but the director has shown it in a matter of few seconds, but that's exactly what happens when a flood happens, which is that the water starts coming into your house from your toilet. And so this is a very moving scene in this movie, which actually was shocking even for me because I had spent years writing that line, but the cupboard is spitting sewage out. That is what happens when your home floods. And I wanted people to know this because it was shocking for me. When we think floods, we think water, but actually when we think floods, we should think sewage.
Yeah.
And my home was filled with 6 feet of sewage, which meant that every single item in the house had to be thrown out. Anything you had any value to, anything you had any sort of attachment to, everything had to be thrown out, which is what made actually the stories of people who were later actually engaged in cleaning so much more hard-hitting for me, right? Once it enters my house, and I'm having like a meltdown, and I write a book about it. But there are people for whom this is the everyday reality in this country, right? So.
Also, I feel youngsters should come forward. I mean, people over 50 are all gone. They said, anyway, my life is over. Youngsters, in fact, the majority of the youngsters, so many youngsters called me and said, what can be done? They were all shocked because their lives are yet to start. Imagine, every year you are going to have a flood in Kerala or in Karnataka or in Goa. Every year it's going to happen. It's going to be a reality. What I'm trying to say is climate change is like a cancer. It's not going to go. It's there. Now, what do you do to mitigate this cancer? We obviously need more forests, right? We obviously need more green zones. We obviously need to conserve our water bodies, our wetlands. That's the only option we have. If you don't do that, it's not happening. That's a sad part. So the first thing that I think we need to have a Western Ghats, say Western Ghat movement across Kerala, Karnataka, Goa, Maharashtra. Let's forget North. Yeah, we don't need North. Let's think of. It's such a old ecosystem. Yeah, it's older than Himalayas. Imagine, it's older than. Such a rich ecosystem which is getting destroyed. You feel so sad. So let's have a huge campaign movement in social media probably with youngsters in the lead. We don't need leaders actually. Let's have that. Let's start with and let's adopt one river. Start with adopting one small river. Maybe Kaveri, whatever river, and let's show it as an example, and probably we can replicate that. We need to do it urgently, otherwise things are going to be really bad.
Hi, thank you for coming here. And I had one question, like the sort of books that you both have written needs an intense amount of research, going to people and doing that survey. So if I'm not asking specifically for the flood related areas or whatever, if I have to do anything, how should I approach any of the survey system, or the sort of questions I should ask? Like what sort of question, how will I decide those questions to the people, to the on-ground people? You did research with the tribal, like it's totally different, like the sort of life that we have led and the sort of life that they are leading. How will you decide this is the right question to ask to them to gain the right information that you need?
I think if you have the right heart, it's easier. If your heart is in the right place, seriously, it's not a big thing. So, but for this book, in fact, I have been writing on Western Ghats for the last decade, from 2009. In 2009, I need to tell this because 2009 there was this huge mining proposal, which in the introduction they had said there was this huge in a place called Sindhudurg in Maharashtra. I was working with the Times of India in Bombay. The government of Maharashtra, they decided to sort of give mining leases to 49 mountains, 49 green verdant mountains in the Western Ghat region. So that's a day. So I went there and I did a series of reports in the Times of India, and in fact the total worth of the mountain, the bauxite ore, was 50,000 crore. So fortunately we had a very good environment minister, Mr. Jairam Ramesh. He saw the report and he reacted to the report and he put a review on the whole thing. And we could actually save 49 mountains. It's still there. So that is the day. In 2009 I realized, oh my God, Western Ghats actually has so much of eco service to give. So I've been researching on Western Ghats. It's not that one fine day post floods I did it. Then in fact I broke the Madhav Gadgil report the entire Madhav Ghat report. In fact, I broke in the Times of India. So I've been writing about Western Ghat region. I know the area. I know Maharashtra and Goa very well, and also part of Karnataka. Kerala, in fact, was new for me because I've never worked in Kerala. So but Kerala was a revelation for me actually. Because if you go to Kerala, you're taking a flight to Kerala, you'll only see green, right? And you feel so happy. But actually the green is all rubber plantations. It's not forest. Forest is just 2% over there. So the reason of droughts, now you have droughts in Idiki, places like Idiki. Idiki, in fact, has the highest number of ecologically sensitive zones in Idiki. I mean, imagine drought. They're using tanker lorries in Idiki. In a state where you have 3,000 mm of water, Rajasthan gets just 300 mm of water. Look at the way they conserve water. We don't. Keralites don't realize the importance of ecology. They have too many things, I think. That's a problem. When you have too many things, no, you start ignoring it. It's very sad.
In terms of asking questions, right, I think one of the first things would be, I would say, is to be sensitive, is to, no matter who you're interviewing, and to sort of be open and listen. I think if you leave the question open-ended and you sort of listen to people, people are willing to talk to you. And obviously some people won't be, they may not trust you, but that's not, that's not their fault. So you'll have to move on to somebody else. But there are enough people who will be willing to speak to you if you go with the right intentions and ask them the right questions. And, it doesn't have to be the right question. I think it just has to be, you go from a place of goodwill, and I think they respond to that mostly. I don't think I ever encountered anybody in the course of writing this book who just shut the door on me and said, I won't talk to you. Because, in fact, they're hoping somebody will come and ask them. So if you ask them the right questions, people have the answers.
In fact, I've dedicated the book in the acknowledgement to a tribal community. They're such friendly people, yeah. I mean, in fact, look at the self-respect they have. If you go to places like Attapadi, they say once upon a time we used to own 1,000 acres of land. They were tribal kings. In Wayanad, if you go to Wayanad, places like Wayanad used to be ruled by tribals until settlers came and took over their land. So they have this immense self-respect. You go to them and you talk to them and they're so friendly. And they'll keep, unlike others, very, very friendly people. And I think people who are very connected to nature, they're basically very warm. People who are disconnected to nature, they become very, this is what I felt. They become very hostile.
When the news channels were doing a survey on Wayanad, the people there said, we are willing to have tourism, but please let it be ecotourism or not at all. Unlike what was happening in Uttar Pradesh, where it was being promoted as a tourist destination, the people said, humko nahi chahiye ecotourism, to mat hi lao. So it's also an electorate which is intelligent, which votes probably a more sensible leader that thinks that, don't just blame the leader. You must also want the right thing from your side. If you think that, the glorification of Uttar Pradesh is going to get you a good backing, then you get a strange.
Thank you, everybody. We have to close for lunch. There is an exhibition on the 3rd floor, which is, it sort of is a extension of the conversation that we had today. So please go look at that exhibition. And Anjana.
Thank you to the entire panel for such an insightful conversation.